Something's out there. Something that forced its way into our world. Listen up! Come get some. Come get some. All right. Come get some. Come get some.
Shout out to Sam Raimi.
Come get some.
Bruce Campbell. Haha.
Come get some.
Yeah.
Come get some.
Alright. Okay. Look.
Alright, let's fucking go. Play some Ghost Recon. This game is huge. I have a lot to do.
This is Operation Kingslayer.
Oh, wow. Apparently the Legend of Dragoon port on PS4 and 5 is not doing too well. That's good to know. I was planning on buying it. There we go. Might make a new intro today. Yeah. Might make a new intro today. These Ubisoft servers, man. These Ubisoft servers, man. You guys want to listen to the Eagle Eye podcast with me? Let's do it. Let's turn off the desktop audio and listen to the Eagle Eye podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. With Ruben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. Rube, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I got kicked out of the library, Dave. I did the podcast Tuesday in my local library, and just looking for like a little quiet. They have all these rooms that no one ever uses. They're these little quiet like study rooms, And I came out of there, and the woman's like, "You can't do that anymore. You're not a nonprofit." And I'm like, "Well, people take out books that aren't working for nonprofits. I mean, people use the library all the time for different reasons." And she's like, "Well, you can't do your podcast in our library anymore." So I got kicked out of the library. So yeah, so it's kind of soured my mood a little bit, but I'm like, I'm never taking out any books from there again.
They'll miss those $0.
Yeah, they'll miss that revenue. I donated. Actually, when I did my book in my Eagles Greatest Plays in Eagles History book, I offered them like a copy for their for the stacks, and I never heard back from them. So that's 2 strikes on the library. I'm not real happy. Not impressed. Anyway.
I love the idea of you having a feud with your local library. That sounds like a Seinfeld episode to me.
Really
A
pathetic,
feud
isn't it? It
with
really
your
does.
local library.
All right, we have a lot
Like,
to get
fuck
to
the
today.
library,
It's,
man. Fuck those guys.
Combine is
They're
right around the corner.
jerk-offs.
I'll be leaving on Monday. Head out there for a few days.
Favorite city.
I spent a lot of time in Indianapolis, so I'll tell you that. But the Combine's always fun. We finally know that Howie and Nick will talk. We know the date and time. So at the end of the podcast, we'll just kind of briefly give our thoughts on what they might talk about next week. But I wanted to start off before we hit some stay or goes with Miles Sanders on his Instagram feed, on his stories, posted basically a plea to stay here. It was he quoted himself quoting himself in a way. It was his quote was, "I love Philly, just bring me back. I hope they bring me back." This is clearly from somebody's story. When asked if he had a message to Howie Roseman / the organization, "I love you. I hope you love me too." He wants to be here, Rube, but we already, both of us on the last podcast in Stay or Go, said we think he's gone. Is there a chance he's back?
I don't really see how. I mean, I guess because my questions about Miles are both financial and performance. Like in the biggest game, again, we don't know his health status in the Super Bowl, but he was a non-factor in that game. Jack Stoll played more snaps than he did. I think Grant Calcaterra played more snaps than him. But that's my question is, with every running back, when you hit a certain number of carries, you get a decline. And he was off to a great start this year, but
Yeah, he was.
He did have a good statistical performance against the Giants. That was the
He
Giants.
did. I think he
I
was
just
hurt.
wonder where he is
That
as a
knee.
player, and look, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, Pro Bowl is all fine and good, but you have to look at where he's going and where he's going to be next year. And even if he's
It's
willing to
still
take a hometown discount and
Good
play
thing I
for
jumped out.
a relatively low figure, you have to
It's still
ask
going.
yourself, do we still want him as our lead back? Because if he's here, that's what he is. And I just don't know the answer to that. I mean, he was really good this year. We marveled at how disciplined a runner he had become, and the strides he had made as far as not dancing around, being quick to the hole, physical between the tackles runner. But Gainwell's cheap. He's on a rookie deal as a 5th-round pick. You can draft a guy probably who can match Miles' numbers in the middle rounds. Maybe not match them, but if you add those numbers to Gainwell's numbers, and we talked about Kennedy Brooks or Trey Sermon, I just don't see where he fits in. Even if he's willing to take $4.5 million a year, which I don't think he would be. So there's a reason running backs have a limited shelf life. And when I saw him later in the year, I just thought he was missing that snap he had early in the year. Maybe it was injury related, but then you have that whole narrative like he's been hurt throughout his career. So honestly, I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. He finally, is able to play every game, and he's still not completely healthy. We see the knee injury pop up, and then the hand injury in the Super Bowl. That stuff happens, but it seems to happen a lot with him.
It seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, I wonder
he's-
if there is a point though where
he's a little injury
the hometown
prone.
discount would be big enough that they would say, okay, for that.
But he is a
We
running
want
back.
you
That
back for that
he's
salary.
the
then
most
sure.
beat upon
I don't know what
position,
that
I
number
think.
would be.
One of the
He said,
most
what'd
beat
you say,
upon skill
4.5
positions.
or 5.
Yeah,
I that would be a heck of a bargain,
yeah.
based on the player. I'm looking up the top running back contracts in the league. I mean, that would be way down on the list.
I probably wouldn't even put him in the top 20.
It would. It might right now, but that'll change obviously. I don't think he would take that. I think we're looking in the $7 to $8 million range.
Yeah, I just threw out a number because he seems so desperate to be back here, and maybe part of that is maybe his concern about his value on the open market. Maybe he doesn't think he'll be a $7 million guy.
Maybe, and look, I think this could be a case where he goes out, tries to find a big deal, and for whatever reason it's not there. You know, if you have to take a cheaper deal, you're probably more willing to do that in a place where you're comfortable, a place where you think this team has another good shot to win, and a place where you know you can put up big numbers and try to get that contract the following season. I mean, the problem for him would be if he can't get a contract after the year he just had, when's it going to come?
I mean, that's life as a running back in the NFL. You know, it's just, I mean, it's, I think, the lowest paid position, right? Other than kickers. It might even be below kickers now. They're so interchangeable. That's why you just don't see guys staying with the same team. And you know, I think part of this question is how much do they like Gainwell? Well, they certainly liked him more in the postseason than Miles. He had more touches, more plays, more targets, more carries, more yards. He looked like the more productive back. Part of that might have been he was well rested. He didn't play all that much in the regular season, and Miles did. You know, how big a role can he play? Can he be a RB1? Can he be a 15-touch guy as opposed to a 10-touch guy? I think we're all comfortable with him at, you know, 10 touches, but that's a big jump to become the bell cow guy. Jim Johnson was the first guy I ever heard use that phrase, bell cow.
What does it mean? I use it. I don't know what it means. Like the origin, I guess. I know what it means.
I think I did a thing on it in 10 Observations a long time ago, just how the lead cow, like, you know, your lead cattle would have a bell on it. And
the lead cow in a herd.
Yeah, and the other ones would follow it.
Why do we only use that for running backs?
Well, I guess because, you know, a herd, you know, I guess you could, I don't know, maybe there's a little
You
metaphorical.
could call Kelsey like the bell cow offensive lineman. He's always out in front, and they all follow him. That seems like a closer representation of the real meaning.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Dave.
I think basically because there's, you know, you don't go like 3 deep in centers in a game. So I think the phrase has to do with he's the back that they turn to all the time. But if you want to use it to talk about centers, I'm not going to stop you, Dave.
Okay. I'll make that my thing.
You do that.
He's the bell cow offensive lineman.
We'll see how that goes.
Oh, Ben has a Google search here. Players that are capable of taking on a large workload and flourishing. I mean, well, if that's not Jason Kelsey, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, but where does it come from? It comes from farming. It's an old farm. You interviewed enough farmers. You know, we'll ask Cam Jurgens about it. Guy lives on a farm.
Yeah.
And
That would be you know what?
Yeah, here we go.
You're giving me a stupid idea to do next year.
Oh, there's no shortage of those.
All right, let's move on here.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see where Miles ends up and what that contract looks like from wherever he gets it.
It is kind of weird to see him so, I don't know if desperate's the right word, but
I don't think that's desperate. I think he just wants to be back here.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Look, I mean,
He's on a team that just went to the Super Bowl. He's the top running back here. He's from, you know, a few hours away if you're driving fast. You know, he's made a home here. I get it. It's amazing to me, like, when you kind of zoom out, like, just how easy it is for some players to switch cities like that. I don't think that would be a really big struggle for me, I think. Like, if I felt comfortable in a place, I'd want to stay there, I think.
yeah.
If the money is, you know, close.
Yeah, and I think Miles is you know, I don't know, he's a pretty emotional guy. I think he's really attached to the city, and that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, James Bradbury, I mean, he's, you know, packing up for the next place, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's just Some guys just have different personalities. But I think it speaks highly of what they've built here that, players want to stay. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's, it's a huge media market. It's a winning organization. It's a good culture. So, yeah. We'll see. It's going to be one of the more interesting storylines in the next couple months.
3, 2.
Well, no, we haven't got life insurance yet.
You can get a policy online in as little as 10 minutes.
I guess we really do.
See, it's going to be one of the more interesting storylines in the next couple months.
As we record this on Thursday morning, the Eagles do not have a defensive coordinator yet. Jim Leonard, the former Wisconsin defensive coordinator, is no longer in the running. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN reported that Leonard and the Eagles decided to, all right, let's stop this. Leonard was planning on taking a year off anyway, apparently, and then the Eagles' job became available. So they thought about it, but they said, no, we're not going to do this. So he's off the list. And he was maybe the most intriguing candidate to me. I don't know if he would have been the best fit, but certainly the guy who, piqued my interest the most.
Yeah, I guess he's going in for hip surgery, and feels like he needs to take some time off. And it's a physically grueling job. I mean, we talk about the mental side of it, but being an NFL head coach or coordinator is it's a lot. So that makes sense. But yeah, it's a good candidate off the table. Still some interesting guys. I would think they need to make a decision fairly soon. We talked the other day about, you don't want to get to the combine and not have a defensive coordinator, because now you're looking for players, but you don't have a system for them to fit into. So, and I think they have a general idea what they're looking for, but you want that synergy between the scouting department and the coaching staff. So, yeah, they don't have a linebackers coach. They don't have a coordinator. So I would think Howie might even be just sitting there, waiting until we're done recording.
There's a good chance of that.
Yeah. Oh, they're done? Okay, let's announce it. But yeah, I would think very soon.
Yeah, you would think so. The Eagles lost another lower-level assistant, Joe Casper, heading to Miami to be the linebackers coach?
Safeties coach.
Safeties coach, that's right. Safeties coach in Miami under Vic Fangio. So, see Joe Casper, but, in a city where you're already losing coaches, you don't want to lose anyone. And
yeah, they don't have all that many defensive coaches right now. You have Rocker, Washburn, you have the two D-backs coaches, and you have Tyler Scudder. I think that's it. Yeah. So they got some work to do on that side. There's one thing, they always like to announce all the hires at the same time. So there's a chance that some of these things are done and they have people in place. They could even have people working for them. Right now, they just haven't officially announced them. I don't know that that's the case, but, they always like to put out that one press release that covers all the moves. And if they're not ready to do that, we've seen times at the Senior Bowl where that's how you found out somebody's been hired by the Eagles, because of their laminate says Eagles on it.
yeah.
And I remember one time when you were down there and I was in the office and you're texting me look up this guy. Look up his...
You see someone, you're kind of getting real close, looking at the lanyard.
Trying to get Dave's got his binoculars, trying to get his name. That's Rick Minter.
That was when I think that was Doug's first year, so
yeah,
that staff was kind of coming together late.
Yeah.
I think they hired Chris Wilson while they were down there, the former defensive line coach.
Yeah, one of many.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's going to make a big difference this year, whoever the DC is, and then some of those other position coaches. You see Gannon is going to let Nick Rallis call plays?
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and I guess that's a direct influence of seeing how much it helped Nick Sirianni, that is, give it up to Shane in the middle of last year. So interesting, though, for a defensive coach to do that, but I think Gannon really sees himself as coach of the whole team. Listening to his presser, he didn't shy away from questions about, the offense and what kind of offense it'll be in Kyler and just the whole, And I think you have to be a successful coach. And just like, well, that's probably not true. I mean, some coaches just give the guy on the other side of the ball complete everything autonomy. But it just seems like
for some things you can, but you still have to manage it all.
Yeah. And Nick talking about how he has some general ideas how he wants the defense to look and what he's looking for there. He doesn't just want to hire somebody and say, yeah, you handle that. I think that's pretty healthy. Although some guys have had success, just turn it over to the other guy.
Yeah. I like this method.
Yeah, it's growing on me. I mean, it obviously worked for Nick. He did not do a great job calling plays.
I mean, the problem is you get in a situation like this where your play caller offensively leaves, and now you got to figure out that spot. But if you're the head coach and you're calling plays, you're not leaving.
Right.
Fire you.
That's a whole other. But that's why I think the fact that he was so quick when I asked him last week about calling plays, he said, "No, I'm not going to do it." You don't say that if you don't have an offensive coordinator picked out.
And it's like it really it kind of changes the way you view those candidates too.
Yeah.
Because then you need someone who's able to do that. Whereas, if you're calling the plays, you can hire a guy who's good Monday through Saturday.
Right.
All right, ready for some stay or goes?
Let's do it.
We left off on the previous pod. We didn't get the defensive tackle or interior offensive line, so this is going to be a heavy in the trenches day. Howie would love it. We'll start with defensive tackle. And the first name on the list is a tricky one, Fletcher Cox, who is an all-time great Eagle, but you and I are in agreement that this has run its course.
Yeah, and I do think that if he's willing to kind of, say, look, I realize where I am in my career. I mean, he's made over $100 million. I don't know if he wants to go somewhere else and uproot his life after 11 years in Philly, but I just don't think he can be. And look, he had some good moments this year. He had some stretches where he was a pretty good player.
I thought he was good all year for the most part.
For the most part, he was, but also I think he played too much late in the season. I think he played too many snaps. I think if he's willing to take look, they don't have many defensive tackles under contract, and if he's willing to be a 10 to 15 snap guy, rotational type guy. I mean, he was rotational this year, but a lot less rotation.
Yeah.
And a lot less money. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think he feels like he can still be starting caliber lineman in this league, and more power to him. I don't think he'll be here.
Yeah, it'll come down to money, like it often does. And they gave him a 1-year, $14 million deal. And as good as he was, it's obviously worth it because he was an important player on a team that went to the Super Bowl. But I don't think you do it again, this year. And defensive tackles get paid a lot of money, and we've seen some decline from him. Now it was a little resurgence this year, but overall the trend is still going down from when he was a Pro Bowl player. I don't know. It's a tough one. I think he'll be gone. But we always get asked this question. We got asked it. Looking, Jimmy Sheridan on Twitter asked us if we think he's a Hall of Famer. What do you think? Right now, probably not. If
I
he
still
puts
think
together,
he's quite there.
huh?
I don't think he's quite there. I think he'll be on the ballot and for a while, and he'll get some votes. 6 Pro Bowls is a lot. I mean, he was really, really good for quite a while. So certainly there's a conversation there, but I don't think he's done quite enough. 1 All-Pro doesn't help him.
Playing in an era with Aaron Donald doesn't help him.
That's true. He was never the best guy in the league. But maybe one day he will. I mean, what's he got, 65, 70 sacks? It's, in this era, it's not a huge number for interior linemen, but he had some great years. I think he's borderline, but I don't think he's a Hall of Fame.
65 sacks. But he's part of this era that's changed pass rush in the league where, when he came into the league, it was just starting to be interior rushers were big pressure guys, and he helped change that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on the wave, one of those guys. But what do you think? I don't think he's done quite enough.
Yeah, I don't think quite enough, but if he accumulates over another 3 seasons, I think he's got a shot.
Yeah, what do you have? 7 this year and another one in the postseason. If he gets another 20, but I don't see that happening. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Next guy on the list, Jordan Davis. Look, he'll obviously be here next year. He's a stay. We do this for every player, and sometimes it sounds silly, but yeah, like, of course, he'll be here this year. But what did you make of his rookie season?
I like where he is. I wish he played a little more. They have a lot of guys to get in there, and a lot of guys to rotate in. I like his attitude. I think he's going to be really good. Obviously next year is a huge, huge year for him. You have to remember these guys like him and Kobe, are 21, 22 years old. They're coming in. They're learning the game. They're learning how to take care of themselves physically. I saw a lot of good signs when he played. And, he had one of the best pressures on Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Probably should have had him down. But that dude is, I think a human quarterback would have been down. He somehow got rid of the ball and got a first down to Kelsey on the play. So I don't think he's ever going to be a huge sack guy, but he showed a little push in there. And we know he's really good against the run. Got to be a little more consistent. And he missed some games. I guess he only missed two games. I think part of another one. I like where he is. I wish
he missed more than that. He was on IR with that.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. He missed the 4 games and part of a 5th. Yeah, I knew that wasn't right. But I like where he is, and I don't know if my expectations are probably a little higher as far as reps and plays, but he's on track, and I feel good about the pick. I feel good about where he is.
Yeah, I kind of do too. It was a shame when he got hurt because he was like hitting his stride in the middle of the season. It was that Steelers game.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that game and seeing him not over the center and thinking, oh my gosh, they're really opening up Jordan Davis now. And he had already started like this was his 5th straight start. We're like, okay, like now we're starting to see it. Then he got that high ankle sprain, and I don't think he was ever right until, playoffs maybe. High ankle sprain for a guy that big is tough, and I think it really kind of tanked a lot of his season, but I still saw enough really good signs to think he has a bright future.
Yeah, I hadn't thought that maybe the injury was still hampering him, but those high ankles take home.
Oh, I think it definitely was, yeah.
Yeah, and he wouldn't use his. I like his attitude. I just think he's a guy that's really hungry, wants to be great. He really valued the time he had with this year, and he knows it was limited with Linval Joseph and Sue and Fletcher and Hargrave and all those guys. He was in a room with so many veterans who've played this game at a high level for a long, long time. And he said this was a year to just soak up as much knowledge as he could and learn as much as he could and figure out how to apply it to his game. So I think it was a really valuable year. Really lucky to be in that position with so many really good players.
Next one's a really tough one. Javon Hargrave, who had his best season yet in 2022. 11 sacks, somehow didn't make the Pro Bowl, which is crazy. Have 11 sacks as an interior lineman and not make the Pro Bowl. But certainly a Pro Bowl caliber player is going to get a big payday. Hasn't happened yet here since his first contract, which, by the way, that's an all-time great contract. 3 years, $39 million for a guy who was not asked to really rush the passer in Pittsburgh. They saw the traits anyway, and they were aggressive, and they got him. That ended up being quite a nice move for them. But it's going to cost more now, and it's tricky. And we disagreed on this. You have him going, I have him staying. It could go either way.
Yeah, and the one thing about he had the sacks, but he's just a really good all-around player. Really, just always in the right place, physical, good run stuffer. I just really like his game. He's a dog, as they say. That doesn't sound right when I say it, but
I don't like that.
He's he's a beast, and but yeah, you're right. It could go either way. My thinking on this and saying he goes is that I've just felt all along that if it was going to get done, it would be done. And this year is different just because of the Jalen situation. But I just don't see it happening now. And I mean, the numbers for defensive tackles are, and he is, what is he, 30 now?
I think he's just under 30.
Maybe just about to turn 30. No, he is 30.
He's 30.
He just turned 30. But that might bring his number down a little bit. I mean, the Eagles ideally, they like signing free agents. Not that right now they have exclusive negotiating rights, but they like signing guys, who are up for their second contract at, 25, 26, 27. So they might look at him and say he's a great player now, but if we sign him, is he going to be worth $20 million a year in 3 years? And that's a fair question. I hope it gets done because he's a good guy and he's a good player. I just don't think it will.
Yeah, and that's probably, you mentioned $20 million a year. I mean, that's probably 18 to 20 is where it starts. It's just the price of interior linemen like that. So it's gonna be a lot of money. I look at the two priorities in free agency. For me, they would be C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Javon Hargrave. Can they keep both of them? It's tough.
Yeah, I don't think they can, and we'll see. If anybody can do it, it's Howie.
All right, next two guys, and we'll lump them together here. Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh signed 1 day apart in the middle of the season. We both think they're both gone. If you had to pick one more likely than the other to be back, who would you pick?
I think it's interesting. I think Linval got off to a better start. I think Suh finished stronger. Suh's a year older. He's made a lot more money in his career, so there's a lot of things that work here. I don't think either of them has any desire to go through a training camp. So that's kind of my thinking as far as goes. But I could see Suh coming back middle of the year again, and being part of the stretch run. I think he's more likely.
I agree with that, especially you can't have Linval Joseph taking snaps away from Jordan Davis in year 2.
Right.
You did it this season because there was an injury and you needed someone, and then Linval was playing well, and you thought, well, we're not going to change this because Jordan's a rookie and we're in this Super Bowl hunt. But you can't have that again. I thought Suh played fine. I thought he was solid. He's never in his career missed a game because of injury, which is
incredible,
insane for the way he plays and the position he plays. So you feel pretty good about, he'll be ready to play if you need him. But I don't think neither of those guys are going to show up to a training camp.
No, much less an OTA. But, I like Suh's. I thought they both brought something to the table. I think Suh's more likely.
Okay, 3 more guys on this list, and then we'll switch positions. Marlon Tuipulotu, interesting guy. Started the season on the roster, got hurt, and ended up on IR. Was very improved in training camp, and maybe that's why we differed on this one. I have him staying because I think if he takes that kind of jump again,
they're just gonna keep.
Well, that's true. I was disappointed in him. I expected a little more.
I have good position.
When he did play, and he played a lot. And before he got hurt, he was playing like 25 snaps, 26 snaps a game. I just saw nothing from him in those snaps. He was better in camp. And look, you can say stay for any of these guys because they just don't have anyone under contract, and you might be right. I think they need to do better. So
the problem is, how do they do better? Because they're probably not signing free agents or no super notable free agents. Draft is a possibility, as it always is for defensive linemen, and that's what makes this really tough doing it before the draft specifically.
Oh my God,
but
really?
I think there's a chance, and you make the team from training camp, and Tuipulotu had a good training camp last year.
Yeah, I just think they can do better. Whether it's a guy from another roster, a guy from another practice, I just think they can do better than Tuipulotu. So I'm going. I don't want to keep him just because there's no one else.
Okay.
Because that usually doesn't work. Because they'll find someone else.
I don't
Are
know
we
if
done?
that's true.
Okay. Well, that's why you have a stake.
Next one is Milton Williams.
Yeah.
We're both, well, I think we're like lead members of the Milton Williams fan club.
We're bell cows of the fan club.
Milton's good.
Yeah,
I
he
hope
really is.
people like appreciate him because he was kind of lost at times this year, playing with a first-round pick and all these like great veterans. But Milton was really good this year.
Yeah, he was, and yeah, I think he's a versatile guy. He can line up anywhere. He's steady, consistent, productive playmaker. Love his mentality. I mean, he wants to be great.
You guys
He
have
wants to
balls,
be,
my dude.
an all-pro, and he's a young kid. And there's this group of these, young guys who are kind of ready to take that next step. And I think he's one of them. I really like his game.
Are you ready?
I thought he should have played more in the Super Bowl. He
Are
only played
you
like 10 snaps. I get that.
ready?
But they shortened the bench.
I'll fight this whole patrol, bro. I don't give a
didn't
fuck.
go great, but I like Milton a lot.
All four. Let's go.
Chance to be a starter this year.
Yeah, he better be.
Yeah.
I think he can handle that. Yeah, no.
Rebels
I
are
do
giving
too.
me some breathing room. Let me re-up on
Last
ammo.
one is Marvin Wilson. Big Marv, been a fan of his. He played in one game this year, and I thought the Eagles kind of did him dirty. They put him out there against the Houston Texans and said, "Guess what, Marv? You're playing nose tackle." It just didn't go well. It was a shame for them to like let him put out tape like that.
Yeah, that's true. I think it was a game day elevation, right? I think he was still on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an interesting guy because he was like big time prospect. He was projected to be a pretty high pick I think he was at Florida, right?
Florida State.
Florida State, yeah. If he came in after his junior year, he stayed and had trouble with the coaches, and his value plummeted, and he ended up going undrafted. And so I guess there's something there. It's hard to evaluate him on that game, but they liked him enough to keep him around on the practice squad after that Houston game, and I guess he's got a shot. I have him going just because I haven't seen a reason for him to stay yet. But another young guy who, if he takes that next step, he plays a position where, make a decision about me. Go have a great camp and great preseason games, and make it tough for them to cut me. We'll see.
Yeah, I think he'll probably be around on the practice squad again. Maybe we'll see him at a certain point in the year. Hopefully not a nose tackle.
And hopefully not against Houston.
All right.
Download the Domino's app today and become a Piece of the Pie Rewards member to earn points toward free pizza.
All right. We'll do one more position, then we'll take a quick break. Interior offensive lineman Landon Dickerson will obviously be here. Very good season from Landon. I thought he showed really good improvement. I've been impressed by him.
Eagles' youngest Pro Bowl offensive lineman since Buck Lansford in 1956. Buck Lansford was really the bell cow of that group in 56. I wish he would give himself some credit sometimes, but he still thinks he stinks. But I guess that works for him. But yeah, really good year. You don't see a lot of offensive linemen don't get honored like that, like Pro Bowl stuff early in their career. It usually takes guys a while because it's a position where you're not getting a lot. You don't have stats. You're not getting a lot of notoriety. Maybe Pro Football Focus and that kind of thing helps kind of put a spotlight on some of those younger guys.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But he's really good, and he's got a great coach, and he'll be here for a while.
Yeah, and it's funny, the way my mind works, and I'm sure yours does too, when an offensive lineman in his career starts getting these accolades early, you start thinking, oh, these are going to stack up, and we could look back at this in 15, and it's a shame that this is the way it works for offensive linemen, but like you could look back at this in 15 years and be like, oh, he's got 8 Pro Bowls. Like, he might be a Hall of Famer. Like, that, obviously we're getting way ahead
He
of our...
now has Landon Dickerson go to the Hall of Fame.
No, but I think he has, like, that kind of ceiling. I don't think that's crazy.
I mean, he's a really good player. Yeah,
It's hard for guards. I get it.
Oh my God.
He's a very talented player. He was a first-round talent, obviously. And look, when they draft him, I'm not going to sit here and say I thought it was a great pick. I was nervous about it because of how
Was that
many
an
injuries
Apache?
he had in college. And we'll see. He dealt with some like little things.
Listen,
Pros.
your boyfriend's down. You're down.
The field plenty of times.
He always comes right back.
Yeah, he comes right back, and he hasn't missed significant time. So I give him credit for that. And if that holds up, he has a chance to be a really, really good player in this league.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that was the big question. And he's really shut that down, that injury thing down. And good for him.
Next up is Julian Good-Jones. He goes. Yeah, give him credit. Like, we'll see what he looks like. He's coming back from the CFL. He was with the Eagles in 2020. But then he goes to CFL, played pretty well up there, and he comes back. Maybe he's a lot better. It's possible.
He learned French while he was up there, so I think that helps his value.
Played for Calgary Stampeders, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so like maybe he'll be a lot better, but without knowing that, we both have him going.
Right.
What the fuck is
Next
that?
up, Cam Jurgens. Redshirt year, for the most part. And now we're looking at, we'll get to Jason Kelsey in a minute, but you can't have two redshirt years. Or at least it's not ideal.
Yeah, and we'll get to we'll get to Sayamalo, but I just feel like Jurgens is going to be starting somewhere. He's going to be starting in center if Jason retires, and right guard if Jason comes back. Because look, Sayamalo played really well. We'll get to him, but these are all related, obviously.
Yeah, let's just talk about these three. Let's not play this game right now. So we have because this is a situation. It's Cam Jurgens kind of waiting in the wings, Kelsey at center, Isaac Sayamalo at right guard. If one of those guys isn't back, you got to think, okay, Cam Jurgens slides in there, right?
Yeah, and I just don't know how you bring back Isaac Sayamalo as well as he played, and he's a really good player. But he's going to make more money than they can pay, and this is the kind of guy you lose when you sign a quarterback to $45 to $50 million contract. And above average guards are making pretty good money, and you're talking about
God.
over $10
Really?
million a year, closer to $12 million a year, and they can't pay that. I don't see how. So this is why you have to draft well. You have a guy like Jurgens who started getting guard reps. There's a reason. I mean, this is all like this. It's no secret that Sayamalo was going to be a free agent. So Jurgens got guard reps. Dillard got guard reps, and he's not in the interior. He's with the tackles, but I think he figures in this too because there's a chance he could be a right guard. But I think it'll be Jurgens, and I don't think Isaac will be back. And assuming Kelsey's back.
Yeah, why are you assuming that?
No, I'm just for the sake of the discussion.
Oh, okay.
Jurgens.
Okay. Where's your confidence? We both have Kelsey staying. But
Yeah.
Where's your confidence level in him doing that?
I just don't know, and I tell people if he doesn't know, how do I know? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in his head. I only have him staying because I'm not mentally equipped to deal with him leaving and not being able to go back to his locker and discuss diners versus delis. That was our conversation all year was what's a diner, what's a deli. And there was one point where we're standing there and he's like, Rube, does having a counter affect whether it's a diner or a deli? He's like, because can it be a diner without a counter, without a counter area to sit at? And I'm thinking, this guy's the greatest center to play football maybe ever. And we're having this conversation about diners, and it all started because there's a deli on the east side of Cleveland called Corky and Lenny's that my cousins and my aunt and uncle all went to, and I used to go to when I was out there a lot visiting. That he loves. So we have this deli that we talk about, and it just struck me one day. I'm talking about diners versus delis with one of the greatest football players in Eagles history, and it just kind of encapsulates everything that he's about. It's just like he's the most down to earth, everyday guy. He just happens to be one of the best football players in the history of the game. So I can't imagine him not coming back. I think he really likes it here. I think he loves playing for Stout. I think one thing Stout said to me at the Super Bowl about how Jason is still, at this point in his career, so intent on getting better. And he really drives himself to become a better player every year. He said this year was his best year technically that he's ever had as far as technique goes. And I think when you're still getting better and you still have that challenge, and you're Jason Kelsey and you really thrive on that, I think if he felt like he wasn't improving, it might change the odds a little bit. But I think that might be a big factor for him. Like he loves the challenge of becoming a better player. And as long as he still has that might make a difference.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. He always says that he's declining physically a little bit, but to watch him make up for it with his understanding of the game and technique and leverage and angles, there's really no one better at that than him. I mean, imagine if he had the early Kelsey athleticism with the knowledge he has now, which is
He's still pretty athletic, though.
He's still pretty athletic, but not, probably not where he was when he was 25.
Yeah, maybe, but seeing him get out in front of plays 30 yards down the field,
Yeah, he's one of the better bell cow centers in the league, and he gets out there pretty quick.
Yeah, he does. But in a very real sense, he's got to let Howie know fairly soon. Free agency's not that far off, just a few weeks away. So if he hasn't yet, he's got to let him know, because that's the contract is going to get done. They're going to sit down and say, look, what's fair? What can we afford? The reason if he's not here, the reason won't be his contract.
Wow! I thought I won.
But it's still going to be a significant amount of money.
I really thought I won. Okay.
Yeah,
we're going to keep doing this. It would be
insulting to not pay him near, if not the highest center salary, one of, which is less than tackles, and but it's still significant.
Yeah, and if Howie's like, look, all I can pay you is $2 million a year, and Jason's be like, and I wouldn't blame him. You don't do that, but. I think it'll get done if he wants to play. It'll get done.
That was a good shot, buddy.
I think it's a push right now. I just have him staying just because I didn't want to write goes under his name.
Okay. Maybe Nick will send 2 kegs this year.
He might need 10.
And the last name on the list is Sua Opeta. I have him staying. I think they like Sua.
Yeah, I do too. I know he finished on the practice squad, but they kind of needed the roster spot. I like Sue. I think he's a decent player, and
let's get the fuck out of here. They're not going to stop.
I think we agree on Sam Allen not being here. We kind of included him in the Juergens Kelsey conversation, but they're going to need a guy like Sue who can back up both guards, and I think he's a pretty solid guy. So
actually, there is one more name I forgot. I put Brett Toth with the guards. I could have put him on either. I think I had more tackles, so I put him with the guards. He's interesting too because he's been around for a while. They clearly like him. Finished last year on IR. They never activated him this year. He was on PUP, and then they just let him ride it out and never brought him on. Interesting. I don't think he's out of the question.
I think they opened his practice window, right?
They did. They let him practice.
Yeah, they let him practice.
Didn't have a spot for him.
Yeah. If a guy's around that long, there's something about him they like. And there's something about him Stout likes, clearly. He's a big guy. I think he's a smart guy. And, and he's been around a long time. So I don't think he'll be on the 53, but he's one of those guys that he'll be in camp. And, we'll see where it goes. There's definitely going to be some roster spots available.
Yeah.
At Nissan, we just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever with our most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup. The choice is all yours. Now get great offers across our full line and shop at your local Nissan store today at nissanusa.com.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Opioid addiction is a national public health crisis. The Someone You Know podcast from the Independence Blue Cross Foundation offers inspiring stories that challenge stigma, offer hope, and humanize disease of addiction. Download the new season 3 of Someone You Know
Whew.
on all major podcast platforms.
Getting ready for my F-45 class now.
Let's go get it, baby.
Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Final home stretch. Let's get it, Alex. One more. We hit. Oh, baby, just finish it up. What a workout.
Extremely difficult. Sweaty, but fun.
That was intense. F45 just gets you good every single time, baby.
Of Someone You Know on all major podcast platforms. All right, let's stick with offense. We're already in an offensive line kick, and we'll go to the offensive tackles. And I could have had Brett Toth there, and I decided not to. But plenty of names here. And we'll start off with Andre Dillard, who it's an interesting one.
Yeah, and my initial thought was just he's going, and then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking he might be like Derek Barnett, how he hit the open market, former first round pick, didn't get the offers he wanted. Eagles brought him back at a low number. Dillard increased his value by learning guard. I just don't know if there's going to be a team out there saying, let's sign him to a big deal to be a starter. I just don't know how the league views him. I think he's become a decent player. There's value in having a guy who can play guard and tackle, and that's where he is now. I mean, he's actually pretty good at guard in the few reps that he played. He had an open mind to it. He embraced it, which is half the battle right there. I think he's at the point in his career where the ego part of I'm a first-round pick, I should be starting a left tackle. I think he's moved on from that, and he just wants to play. And I think if I can just see it, him hitting the open market, no nibbles, and after a few weeks, Eagles are like, look, here's an offer on the table. You come be a backup in a lot of spots, and we'll pay a couple $1 million, and he takes it. So I have him staying.
Yeah, that surprised me. I have him going. I think you're right about there might not be this rush to sign Andre Dillard that some people expect. But unlike Derek Barnett, who has played a ton and who has really kind of shown that he's an average player in the league, we haven't really seen enough of Dillard to know one way or the other. And I think that actually helps him in a way because he has this pedigree. He was a first-round pick. Played here, which helps being under Jeff Stoutland. And the other difference is Barnett knew he was going to play if he came back here because they rotate. Obviously, he gets hurt, but Dillard, there's no guarantee he's going to play if he comes back. Whereas, if he goes somewhere else, at least he has a chance to compete for a job. I think he might take that opportunity, and I think he will.
Yeah, it could very well be. What if they tell him, look, you have a chance to compete at right guard? I don't know.
You would kind of see the writing on the wall if he's competing with Ken Jurgens, but
yeah, most likely.
On a 1-year deal,
Yeah. If Kelsey retires and Jurgens is your center, now.
No, that would make a little more sense.
What are your options at right guard? Sua, Driscoll. Where Dillard might be the best option there. So that was just one of those gut feeling ones. I just feel like he'll be back.
Okay. Interesting. I'd be surprised, but you never know.
Never know.
Jack Driscoll. We both have him staying. He's a valuable player. You need a Jack Driscoll.
Yeah. I wish he played a little bit more consistent when he was out there this year. But look, it's a tough job. He never knows where he's going to be playing, where he's going to be going in. He's okay. He's a decent guy.
I mean, the amazing thing, you say that, but the Eagles don't change a ton of what they do offensively when he's out there. A lot of teams would say, "Oh, we got Jack Driscoll out there. We got to really give him a ton of help." And the Eagles, they'll do it, but they don't do it a lot because so much of their offense is predicated on having these great tackles. So the fact that he's even out there, putting up a fight when he's expected to be Lane Johnson is pretty impressive.
It is, but there might be times where it behoove him to give him a little help too.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I don't think that's on Jack. He's a somewhat limited player, but
yeah, but the effort's there. He's a physical guy, and you're not going to find a better backup type guy. He's another one who he accepts his role and he's good at it.
Yeah, he's really a potential backup at 4 spots on the line.
Yeah,
legitimate. Like I think he might be a better guard than he is a tackle.
Yeah, I go back and forth on that, but you could be right.
Yeah. Next one is Lane Johnson. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he stays this year.
Yeah, I have him staying as well. It's interesting. At the Super Bowl, you started to hear some little rumbles about his Hall of Fame candidacy, and I think he was hurt by. I think his 2 suspensions early in his career probably cost him a couple Pro Bowls, maybe an All-Pro, and you need that stuff to get in the Hall of Fame. So that might have cost him. But he's, you talk about. Fletcher. I mean, Lane Johnson's a Hall of Fame talent. I mean, he's that good. So whether he gets it or not, I mean, it's just such a if you're a football fan, you like watching good offensive line play. You just sit there and watch Lane Johnson for a game, and it's just it's incredible. It's so impressive to see what he does.
Yeah, I wonder how much of Stout's teach tape at this point is Lane.
Yeah.
Has Lane supplanted JP on the teach tape?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that I think the injury he had playing through it this year it was like the first time I thought he got notoriety like that. Like he's always just been Lane Johnson. He's a really good player, but the focus has always been on Kelsey. I thought this postseason playing with that injury. And playing really, really well with that injury, which still blows my mind. I think it finally gave him the attention that he's deserved for so long, because it kind of set him apart. Like, look what he's doing. Nobody's ever done this, or very few people. So, kind of irony that it took an injury for him to get the recognition he deserves.
Do you think Fred Johnson or Roderick Johnson ever wished there was an accounting screw up, and they got a Lane Johnson paycheck?
Yeah, there's a lot of I'm sure that's crossed their mind. Because I always wish there was an accounting screw up and I would get, Dave Zingaro paycheck.
I don't know how that would happen. But Fred and Roderick, 2 veterans actually, on this team who have been here, and they're both large, and we see them in the locker room, and that's about it. But with some questions about the future of the offensive line, they'll both be in camp with a chance to earn spots, and we both had them going, but it's not crazy to think one of them could earn a spot.
Yeah, and they're not these 23-year-old unknown. I mean, they're both guys that have played in the league. They've started games in the league. Roderick's, he's 27. I think Fred Johnson's 25.
Yeah. So
they're both huge. I mean, they're both 6'6", 6'7". Fred Johnson's just, he's
6'7", 326.
Yeah, he's huge.
He looks every bit of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes it's hard, just navigating through some of these guys in the locker room. You're trying to get to the back of the locker room. They just are huge. But, think
about what it's like for a guy like Fred Johnson to just live his life. Goes to Acme, and, everyone's he's probably a football player. I don't know who he is. And then, someone musters up the courage,
every freaking time. Nobody's ever in this building, but as soon as I fucking lay a proximity mine,